times, sorting through the media bias, exposing the propaganda, and challenging you to use your brain. It's time to tap into the truth.
Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed time to tap into the truth. Welcome to tonight's broadcast. I hope you are having a great day wherever you are. I know there's a ton of you out there that are fighting through the evils of the blizzard of 2014. Or at the very least, for those of us in the southern states, we're having to fight a little bit more than we're used to seeing in the snow. And before I start catching flack from all those folks up north that are used to it, remember, the problem isn't that it's snowing. It's just that we have so little experience down here, and unfortunately, as much as I like to fight against misconceptions like, oh, everybody down here is a redneck and all that, we actually do have our fair share of rednecks. And, well, the phrase, here, hold my beer and watch this, well, it was originated in these parts, so it doesn't take much for folks to get into just a little bit of trouble. At any rate, hope everybody is safe and everybody is warm. You may have noticed the title of tonight's broadcast, which is Don't Watch the State of the Union. And there are good reasons not to watch the State of the Union address, but one of the more interesting things that I happen to see today through social media is a lot of people calling for you not to watch the State of the Union address. Now, if you do political talk, if you do political writing, then you almost kind of sort of have to. Only you can get away without it. I mean, there have been occasions where I have not watched the State of the Union address and still, by the same time the next day, knew everything that had been said. So it is entirely possible. So I do kind of like the idea of sending a strong message via television ratings. People not watching, I mean, you can listen in on the radio if you like. And, you know, I've pretty much made the determination that I will not be watching the State of the Union address. And ordinarily, I like doing it. I like getting on Twitter, sending out rebuttal shots. But, you know, just about everybody else is doing that too. So it kind of takes some of the fun away from it, especially if you're a slow typer like I am. I do not type particularly quickly. I'm not a keyboardist. So, you know, by the time I can get one thing out, there's like 3 or 4 more zingers that need to get out there. So I'm almost to the point now where I just need to do a live simulcast video so I can say, oh my gosh, what was that? But all that being said, there's lots of reasons to not want to watch the State of the Union address. And, you know, for the most part, it has a lot to do with the fact that there's going to be a lot of lies. He's going to be lying. He's going to tell a lot of things that just aren't true. And for you Kool-Aid drinkers out there, even you guys know he lies by now. Come on. If you like your plan, that was picked by a left-leaning organization, selected to be the official lie of 2013. The biggest lie of 2013. So, you know, he lies. Deal with it. There's no more denying it. Before I get into the topics I do want to cover tonight, I want to make sure that everyone's aware. Part of the reason for the early start time is so if you are going to watch the State of the Union, you're free to do it. I plan on cutting off the air at about 9 o'clock. I'm going to cut today's broadcast short. Because as much as I would love to encourage you not to watch it, especially if you're one of those families where your viewing patterns are being watched and they'll determine ratings, because I do think that would be a great way to send a message. I don't want to keep you from it if you're going to. In fact, while I'm sitting here thinking that I'm probably just going to watch some Redbox movies that were rented today, and if you don't have a Redbox near you, ask for one. And if you do have it and you haven't checked it out, check it out. Reasonable rentals. Yes, that's right. I'm looking for a Redbox sponsorship. At any rate, I wanted to get to a more serious topic real quick, and it has nothing to do with the news. It has to do with But the local situation, a longtime friend of the family had passed away, and they were receiving friends and having the service tonight. And one of my childhood friends went to school with was a neighbor. You know, it was his mother. And she was a phenomenal person. And since I don't have permission to throw out names, if you know me personally or you're familiar with the locals, then you probably already know. And if you don't know us, if you're not local, then you probably wouldn't know anyway, so that's not really significant. But because of this weather, and unfortunately the roads around here got really bad really quickly, especially after dark, I wasn't able to make it to pay my respects in person. So I wanted to make sure that that the family involved knew that that I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to get there and to do exactly that, pay my respects in person. The lady involved was a phenomenal person. She was always very good to me, and although it's been a while since I've gotten to spend any time with her, or actually it's been quite a while since I've spent any time other than social media communication with any of the family, she's never been too far from my thoughts. And I just wanted to make sure that they knew and understood that the family, you're on my mind and in my prayers tonight. I hope that you can find peace when knowing that she is in a better place, and that there just really aren't words. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop crying. I mean, you can't measure a person's life in just words anyway. But I did want to make mention to that, and I just wanted to be on the record, so to speak, as being very sorry that I wasn't able to get there. I had every intention, and unfortunately, if it had just been snow, that would have been fine, but the roads got icy, especially once it got dark, and I kind of stuck where I'm at. And at any rate, I want to try to get back to a lighter mood now. It's not that easy, really, you know, when you talk about it. I'm not really much in the mood to talk political today anyway, but we'll cover a few things, and we've got to kind of discuss the State of the Union address, whether you're going to listen to it or not. One of the main reasons, one of the more interesting things that I might be tempted to tune in a little bit later, is in the event that someone might show up to actually take Barack into custody, or maybe Barack does the ultimate throwing Hillary under the bus and announces formally that Benghazi was entirely her fault, and he issues a warrant and sends the marshals to take her into custody. Some kind of really cool drama like that. I would hate to miss that in person. But I would have paid money to be there in person to see that. And I think that's part of the reason why you've heard so many people that are going to attend this time. A really interesting trend, really cool trend. I'll discuss this briefly, then we'll hit a couple other political issues, and then we're going to just get out of politics altogether for the rest of the show. But a really cool trend that I noticed throughout social media today is the list of people that kept popping up today that are going to be present. Now, in the past, ordinarily, the president or the first lady, they bring their special guests that are there designed to prop up whatever the propaganda is that they're going to be spouting during the course of the State of the Union address. And I do find that sometimes interesting. Most of the time, I find it very annoying. And this is something that I think is annoying, whether you're talking about Republicans or Democrats. I don't like the idea of having someone there to drive your point home. Look, just tell us what the agenda is. Tell us what you're planning on doing next. Don't mince words. Stop with the political spin and stand on the merit of what it is you have in mind. That's what you ought to be doing. Because when was the last time the State of the Union address actually addressed this current state of affairs? I think maybe Reagan. Maybe the older Bush might have tarried a bit on it, but for the most part, since Reagan, it's mostly been about, here's what we want to do next. Well, this year, though, there's going to be some people there in person that are kind of representational of the opposite of what the administration is wanting to tout. Willie Robinson from Duck Dynasty is going to be there in person. You've got individuals who were victims of the Fort Hood shooting that's going to be there in person. You've got folks that are losing their insurance. You've got people that are there as guests of GOP members of the House of Representatives, that Tea Party evil side of the street. They're going to have people there, faces that will haunt them. A father of one of the 4 men killed in Benghazi is going to be there as a guest. There are going to be faces in the crowd this year that should haunt Barack Hussein Obama, that should haunt Michelle Obama, that should haunt Hillary Clinton, that should haunt John Kerry. There are going to be faces in this crowd that represent what this administration has been doing wrong since the beginning. It's actually going to provide a level of, I guess, kind of a reality check that you don't often get. The whole pomp and circumstance is outside of the norm. It's the joint member. It's seriously, if you were a terrorist, if you seriously were a terrorist and you wanted to cripple the U.S. government, the State of the Union address is one of the few opportunities that you really would have to target, and you'd be able to get everybody in one fatal swoop, because it's supposed to be joint. Both the Senate and the House. The Supreme Court often has at least a contingent there. In recent years, they've had the full court there. That's something relatively new. They didn't used to do that. But you have the president and the vice president. So basically, the entire chain of command, who would be next in line, they're all there. This would be the time to do it. Only all of America's enemies right now, they're not about to do it right now, because the folks that are in charge here, they seem to be on their side instead of ours. But I'm just saying, if you were a terrorist and that's what you wanted to do, this ought to be the target. Go after the State of the Union. But I think it's going to be real interesting to hear the feedback. At this moment in time, and I could change my mind before the show's over. I probably will. But at this moment in time, I have no intentions, absolutely zero, of listening to the State of the Union address. I know it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be double down on the lies that have been. And I can probably catch a recap tomorrow or listen to a rebroadcast and catch all the important stuff. Ordinarily, especially if you're in talking, it's so counterintuitive not to listen and respond and be in the know. But I'm just so tired of the BS. And I know a lot of you guys are too. There's not going to be anything new. He's going to come out and talk about how he needs to double down again on everything that has failed. Everything that has been done has been a complete and abject failure. So I say skip it. You'll hear about it tomorrow anyway. Meanwhile, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to touch on a few issues And then, like I said, we're going to call it an early night tonight. Don't want to keep you guys away from anything that you might want to hear coming out of the occupier's mouth. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Tap into the truth. Check us out at tapintothetruth.com for our latest blog posts and for links to all of our past broadcasts. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and to follow us on Twitter. That's Tap Into the Truth right here on Spreaker Radio. Wow, I think I had a bit of a technical glitch there on the timing, so I hope that wasn't too irritating on the ear. At any rate, so let's go ahead and let's talk about a few stories before I get too far into the political. One of the things that has really come to my attention recently, partially because of some local issues, and partially because of something that actually happened to a employee at the company I work at recently too, is a lot of things are going on with the efficiency with clerks' offices and the judicial systems, and people who are being picked up when they shouldn't be, being charged with violating their probation when their probation was over. Just all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Well, here's a new one that just come out of Illinois. Just came across it. I don't know exactly how long this has been out there. It's relatively new. But this one is pretty bad too. And I just want to get this out. I understand the police are not always your enemy in cases like this, but sometimes you have court issues. This one's a pretty big screw up. There was a woman sentenced for just 2 days in the Clark County Jail in Illinois, and she ends up serving 5 months. Now, her name's Destiny Hoffman, and she was part of this drug treatment program that was going on up there, and she was sentenced to just 48 hours in the Clark County Jail, and she wasn't released from the facility until 154 days had went by. 154 days on a 48-hour sentence. Now, Miss Hoffman is 34. She's from Jeffersonville. And she was ordered to serve 2 days in jail back in August 22nd by the Clark County Circuit Court, Number 2, Judge Jerry Jacoby. Now, the sentence came after Hoffman provided a diluted drug screening result, a violation of the drug court program which Jacoby oversees. Now, a diluted sample means that in these particular terms that she'd put water in with the screening, so the test would be inconclusive. Because of the nature of how inconclusive it was enough to tamper with the results, and that is a violation of the program. Now, Jacoby instructed the Clark County Sheriff's Office through a bond notice to hold Hoffman under no bond and for her to be held until further order of the court. But Jacoby never issued that order, and Hoffman remained behind bars for more than 5 months. Even though Hoffman was released from the jail just this past week, She said that she may seek a civil suit against Clark County, resulting in another black eye for this embattled drug treatment program that they've been running. Now, according to the court records, after Hoffman's 2-day jail sentence, she was to be held pending evaluation and treatment recommendations. But that evaluation or recommendation never took place. Records showed that Jacoby ordered Hoffman's incarceration without a hearing or legal counsel. Now, that's where it gets kind of really mega sticky. While judges have a wide latitude in programs like this, there are still limits to what you can and cannot do in regards to people's civil liberties. This one kind of crossed it. Now, it's unknown how much longer Hoffman would have remained in the jail had it not been for the efforts of Clark County's deputy prosecutor, a Miss Gilbert, who first questioned the woman's incarceration while reviewing old cases. Later, Gilbert entered a motion for the immediate status hearing, and according to the motion that Gilbert drafted, Hoffman's civil liberties were violated by the term of incarceration. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. Hoffman was in custody in the Clark County Jail without due process or process hearings, as the Clark County Drug Treatment Court failed to bring the defendant to court for any hearings regarding the status of her case and or her treatment possibilities, of course. Now, according to the record, no hearing was conducted to determine the validity of such sanctions, and the defendant was not represented by counsel. After Gilbert filed this particular motion, a hearing was held the next day, and the particular judge that had issued the original apprehension and incarceration, the Judge Jacoby, was not present during this hearing. However, a special judge, Steve Fleece, presided, and during the hearing, Hoffman was represented by Jeffersonville attorney Nathan Massino. I'm butchering the name here, but at any rate, this particular attorney had previously served as her public defender. In open court, Fleece called Hoffman's incarceration, quote, a big screw-up. And I think, again, that goes without saying. When the judge asked Hoffman, who wore a green jumpsuit and rubber sandals, why she didn't notify officials of her unlawful incarceration, she declined to comment. Fleece ordered Hoffman to be released from the jail following the hearing. An attorney should have been appointed for her, according to the attorney that represented her at this hearing. And had the hearing taken place after the drug court program violation that led to Hoffman's loss of liberty, what should have happened is someone should have been appointed or reappointed. Only this particular attorney had no knowledge that she was even back in jail. So, the article goes on and it tells us more about the situation. And the bottom line is this is becoming kind of a quasi-common event. We're seeing more and more instances where people are being incarcerated who should not be. And as they continue to face this incarceration, they really don't have much in the way of representation. They're bullied into thinking or feeling like they don't have an option. And let's face facts, most people don't know what their civil liberties are. I mean, even the folks that have their rights read to them over and over again, most of them don't get it. They don't understand. Or if they do fully understand, they just like being incarcerated in some cases. But whatever. Ultimately, this is something that should never happen. The court system is supposed to have checks and balances, just like our regular government is supposed to have checks and balances. Somebody is supposed to be overseeing what is transpiring in a case like this. So, this, big no-no, big mistake. Like I mentioned earlier, there is one other quick political story that I want to get into, only because of how utterly ridiculous it is. We have all been following the soap opera that is Battleground Texas, and the darling of the death cult abortionist of America, Wendy Davis, and her gallant effort as a strong woman to become the next governor of the state of Texas. She has just some of the darndest supporters, though. Turns out that there is a group that can only be described as wheelchair truthers. In fact, there's a group of supporters for Wendy Davis that are out there literally suggesting that the Texas Republican gubernatorial candidate, Greg Abbott, is just pretending to be a paraplegic. Now, all over Twitter, there have been a series of bizarre claims making it all the way to the point of being chronicled in Twitchy, which is Michelle Malkin's little creation where they monitor what the libs are tweeting and catching it before they have a chance to delete it so that the evidence exists forevermore. Because it's funny how when somebody calls them out when they tweet something in a moment of unbridled passion, when their true colors tend to show out, those wonderful situations where it becomes obvious that mostly it's really the so-called progressives that tend to be anti-everything. But at any rate, the bottom line here is that Abbott, who is the current Attorney General of the Lone Star State, has been a paraplegic for at least 30 years. I don't know what the exact time frame is, but I know it's been at least 30 years. And according to the brief biography at his website, he became disabled in 1984 when an oak tree fell on him while he was jogging after a thunderstorm. That certainly doesn't sound like a particularly pleasant event. Not that I would imagine there are very many pleasant ways to become a paraplegic, but it's one that's... I don't imagine that's a very common situation. At any rate, his likely opponent, Democrat Wendy Davis, a Texas state senator who became famous last summer when she filibustered an anti-abortion bill. So the bottom line here is one disbelieving commenter, a Robert Cusperson, expressed skepticism via Texas Tribune on Facebook that Abbott actually... He doubted that Abbott actually needs a wheelchair. The posting read, "They mock Miss Davis. Give us the medical records. Prove he's a paraplegic. He had a kid after the incident. Check to see what the odds are of that happening with severe lower spinal cord injury." The totality of Cuthbertson's personal Facebook page, which features leftist rants and a ton of cats, suggests that his post is sincere. Meanwhile, at the Dallas Morning News, commentator Ed Lopez opined, quote, Republican voters hate strong women because the Bible tells them so. Oh, and poor Wendy has to run against a guy in a wheelchair who might or might need the wheelchair to get around. Now, I don't know what might or might means. I would imagine that should be might or might not. But at any rate, I might or might need the wheelchair to get around, and we have never gotten the true story of how he ended up in the wheelchair and how much money he made in the lawsuit. Interesting opine. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Lopez, Republican voters don't hate strong women. Michelle Bachmann, she comes to mind. I'm thinking former governor of Alaska. Oh, what is her name? Sarah Palin? Seems to me like it was the mainstream media that don't like strong women. How strong can a woman be if they don't need any men after all their student loans are paid, of course? Look, this woman has lied repeatedly on her bio. But to sit back and question whether or not Mr. Abbott needs his wheelchair, that's kind of pithy. Davis has recently been reeling from a series of seemingly unforced, not ready for prime time gaffes, all of which relate to Abbott's disability. Last week, conservative activist James O'Keefe of Project Veritas released a video showing supporters of Davis mocking Abbott for his disability. In the undercover footage, Davis supporters were seen saying things such as, quote, I'm really wondering how this is going to work out, since he's in a wheelchair and most of the slogans are stand with Wendy. Davis has also responded tone deafly to Abbott's criticism of her personal story, which she has made a centerpiece of her campaign. Quote, I'm proud of where I came from, and I'm proud of what I've been able to achieve through hard work and perseverance. And I guarantee you that anyone who tries to say otherwise hasn't walked a day in my shoes. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun talking about that particular quote. But ultimately, here's the big thing that really kind of irritates me on this. We're talking about a situation where Miss Wendy Davis now has some of her supporters out there going nuts, saying, hey, this guy shouldn't even be in a wheelchair. Why is he in a wheelchair? What makes him so special? And they're still kind of missing the point. The chick they're supporting, she's not a good fit for Texas anyway. You know, it constantly surprises me every time I look at the demographics and ever see a district in the state of Texas that is controlled or held by Democrats. I mean, it really does. It just, to me, why would you even move to Texas if you're progressive? If you're even liberal? Texas is, and not that they're not welcoming, not that they're not friendly. I'm not saying that at all. It's the exact opposite of New York, where the governor and the mayor of New York City and evidently also one of the senators, Chucky Schumer, all seem to think that there is no room in the state of New York for extremist conservatives. You know, the ones that think that abortion is wrong. You know, the ones that think that the Second Amendment is something to be, embraced. those extremist Republicans, there's no room for you. Only those squishy spine, softy, get along, rhino-type Republicans are welcome in New York. Texas has always been kind of the opposite, though. While Texas is welcoming of all people that are willing to come there and be Texans, although the only real way to be a Texan is to be a native Texan. Being a native Tennessean, I understand the mentality. I know it. And while I would certainly entertain the idea of moving to Texas at some point, I would never make the mistake of claiming to be a Texan. Because I know that's something special. Now, if you are a Texan and you are a liberal, you are probably out of place. Should maybe consider, for your own good, moving to the People's Republic of California, or perhaps to Oregon, or someplace where your kind of people are in charge, instead of being in one of the few states where the adults are still in charge. The commentary being what it is, I try not to be so pithy, but please, this has gotten to be a joke, and why there is even still a campaign ongoing. The Democrats need to hit red alert. They need to put on a full court press and find themselves a different candidate if they want to try and salvage that election. Personally, I hope they don't. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Mr. Abbott, but typically speaking, unless he's a rhino, and from everything I've read and heard from friends of mine that live in Texas, the guy seems to be pretty legitimate conservative as opposed to the rhino type. So, go ahead and run, Wendy. Let her run. Stay on this disaster of a course. She was a one-hit wonder, and she only became noticeable because of her standing for the principle of trying to protect late-term abortions. The inhumanity of the party of inclusiveness never ceases to amaze me. Alright, we're going to take a quick break again right here, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about something a little different for the show. Something kind of odd that I came across. I actually found it on the Blaze and did some follow-up reading. It's different for the show. That's one of the things I told you early on about Tap Into the Truth. It's versatile. I focus on politics, but we can talk about other stuff too. This definitely not a political story, but we'll get into it when I get back. Stay with us. Tap Into the Truth. Check us out at tapintothetruth.com for our latest blog posts and for links to all of our past broadcasts. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and to follow us on Twitter. That's Tap Into the Truth.
Now they say there's never clouds, so I'm sitting just wishing I could be there somehow.
Alright, thanks for staying with us through the break. This, of course, is your ever so humble host, Tim Tapp, coming to you live from historic Roane County, Tennessee. And there is one other quick mention of a political type story that I wanted to get out there real quick. Mostly because I had a conversation earlier. There has been rumors going around that Hobby Lobby may be having to close all of their stores. And this is the kind of thing that has picked up speed. A lot of folks that are supporters of Hobby Lobby and what they do have expressed concern because these rumors have been just circulating like crazy. Came across something late yesterday. Wanted to go ahead and get that out there because I actually had a conversation this morning with somebody that was concerned about it. At the moment, upper management of Hobby Lobby has absolutely no plans of closing stores, at least not in regards to their ongoing battle with the Obama administration over Obamacare and the contraceptive mandates that they do not believe they should be forced into participating with. Now, with that being said, just want to make sure that people really understand that Hobby Lobby is standing up for their religious beliefs, and they are a private company. The federal government never had the authority to force this type of thing anyway. Now, I don't want to get back into the whole Obamacare thing. We've talked about it a lot. We're going to continue to talk about it more in depth. I don't want to go down that primrose path because I will, and then I won't be able to get into the rest of the stories that I want to get into tonight, which actually is just really one more story and then some last-minute opining. But I want to make it clear. I stand with Hobby Lobby and their choices. They're closed on Sundays. They treat their employees well. I don't think anyone can find a fault with their business model and how they treat their people. So, the certain leftist members of our federal government really need to understand the role of government is supposed to be a minimal one. Just like Chuck Schumer in his little speech he gave the other day, basically where he says the IRS should be used to target the Tea Parties and that people really aren't upset about what government is doing, but they're upset over the lies that the Tea Party is spreading, that what the government's going to do. And that's a bunch of crap. But you did get one thing right, Chucky, when you talked about how some of the things that government has done is provide education, although the quality of that education can be questioned, provided roads and infrastructure, but that is part of what government is supposed to do. Defense and infrastructure. Minimal. That is what you're supposed to do. So go ahead and take credit for that. Yeah, people would be upset if you didn't do that. That is your role. That's what you're supposed to do. But when you use that as your excuse to go waste billions upon billions of other taxpayer dollars and try to trample the Constitution and the individual personal liberties of every citizen in this country, that's going to get people upset. And it doesn't take any lies to get people talking about that. So with that being said, support Hobby Lobby, support Chick-fil-A, support Duck Dynasty, and understand that freedom of speech works both ways. Repercussions for that freedom of speech works both ways. And just because you're in the Tea Party doesn't mean you're a racist. Just asked Colonel Allen West. Sorry, I threw that in because of some of the activity in the chat room a few nights ago. At any rate, we're going to shift gears. We're going to do something that I don't normally talk about here at Tap Into the Truth. We're going to leave the world of politics, so bear with me. Stay with me. Because this is actually, by most people's standards, in the realm of the supernatural. So, light a candle, turn out your overhead lights. If you don't have a candle, turn on a flashlight and listen carefully. Because as far as I can tell, this is actually being reported as a true story. A terrified mother claims that she watched in horror as her demon-possessed 9-year-old son walked backwards up a wall and ceiling. Her claims would be easily dismissed if it wasn't for the fact that a child services caseworker and a nurse weren't reportedly there to witness the whole thing. This mother, Latoya Amons, claims that all 3 of her children showed signs of being possessed, including evil smiles and strangely deep voices. This was being reported in the Indianapolis Star, by the way. The mother says that she also witnessed her 12-year-old daughter levitating in her Gary, Indiana home. Since it's a rental home in Gary, Indiana, I wonder if it might not just be the former residence of the Jacksons. At any rate, strangely enough, the scary-sounding incidents are outlined in official documents. Furthermore, Gary Police Captain Charles Austin told the Star that he is a believer after making several visits to the home and interviewing witnesses. He first thought the family was making the stories up as part of a get-rich-quick scheme. Amon's home was exorcised by a Catholic priest in a number of ceremonies that were reportedly authorized by the Diocese of Gary. The story apparently became so believable that officers with the police department said that they were too scared to stay at the house, and some city officials wouldn't even step foot on the property. The 32-year-old mother says that spirits that haunted her family's house were only vanquished after she moved away and underwent several exorcisms. The unbelievable story has come to light after the Indianapolis Star obtained hundreds of pages of official documents relating to the case. The Ammons family moved into the rental house on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, back in November of 2011. They very quickly noticed strange occurrences, including swarms of flies around the house, footsteps in the basement, and wet footprints streaking across the living room floor. But some of the other things that happened after that made those incidents look like it was just a tea party at the park. In March of 2012, Amons claims that she rushed to check on her 12-year-old daughter after hearing her scream. When she entered her bedroom, she says that she witnessed her daughter levitating above her bed unconscious. The family and some of the guests that they were hosting prayed over the girl until she returned back to the bed. The girl reportedly didn't remember anything about it. The torment reportedly continued, and the family wasn't in a position financially to leave the house. They just didn't have the funds to move. So the family contacted churches and clairvoyants for help, but they received very little in the way of assistance, at least at first. The clairvoyants allegedly told her family that her house was haunted by more than 200 demons. Not sure how she got to that count, but, you know, it was a clairvoyant, so who knows. Amons claims that her children's eyes bulged, and they regularly spoke in deep, growling, gruff voices, and regularly sported evil smiles. I'm sure you could hear the air quotes there. These are all, of course, attributed to being effects of their possession. Her youngest child would reportedly sit in a closet and talk to an invisible child that no one else could see. I guess that's why it was invisible. She also claims he was once thrown from the bathroom when no one was even there to be close enough to actually throw him. Just There you go. Now, most of Amon's allegations are backed up by her mother, Rosa Campbell, who also lived in the house. Later in 2012, Child Protective Services in Indiana was contacted to investigate the mother for possible child abuse or mental illness. A psychiatrist reportedly evaluated the Amons and determined that she was not mentally ill. In fact, she might be abusive. She might be making up stories to try and sell a book deal, but she's not nuts. Good news, right? At any rate, a family case manager reportedly interviewed the family and witnessed a number of strange occurrences herself. Valerie Washington confirmed that she witnessed the youngest boy growling before his eyes rolled back into his head. Okay, well, still, that could be just for show. Washington, however, also claimed that she saw the 9-year-old boy flash a, quote, weird grin and then walk backwards up a wall to the ceiling. And her account was corroborated by a nurse. Quote, there's no way he could have done that. This was the nurse in question who made the statement. The nurse's name, however, has not been released. Now, after being sent to investigate Amos, Washington concluded that an evil influence might be affecting the family. I'm wondering, to what extent exactly would this evil influence be? Could there actually have been demons there? I, for one, as a Christian, do believe that the devil is real and there are demons. But, there's more to this particular story than just that part of it. Because what I find most interesting about this is in these official documents that a family court, family caseworker, and an actual nurse are on board with this. They said, here, this is happening. This is real. In their official documentation, they quoted that this is what happened. This is what's going on. And that, to me, is amazing. But it goes beyond that because, again, the chief of police and other police officers are in question here, too. I mean, LaToya Amon's terrifying claim that her children were demonically possessed inside her Indiana rental house is, of course, being met with a lot of mixed reactions. But during the course of a police investigation, there's audio, which I haven't obtained yet, but I'm going to try and get a copy of it and put it up on tapintothetruth.com when I do. Authorities were recording inside the basement of this house, and they reportedly picked up something hair-raising and unexpected. A voice that clearly whispered, "Hey." I don't know how hair-raising "hey" is, unless there was no one there to say it. Then I feel like we should be watching the Sci-Fi Channel and checking out Ghost Hunters. But at any rate, according to the Daily Mail, none of the officers uttered the word while they were touring the home back in the spring of 2012. Gary Police Captain Charles Austin, who's 62, was so stirred by the experience that he's speaking out, proclaiming that the basement is, quote, a portal to hell. Every one of us who was there that day in the basement and who saw what we saw, went through what we went through after, we all think the same thing. We all call it the same thing. That bit of dirt is a portal to hell. Now, Austin's convinced that the voice on the audio wasn't human. But that small snippet of audio reportedly wasn't Austin's only creepy experience. Some of the pictures he took with his phone while inside the house later disappeared. But before they did, Austin said they were shadowy figures in the photos that weren't in the room when he took the pictures. As he was looking through the images on his iPhone after leaving the home, something equally terrifying reportedly happened. A voice appeared on his police car's AM/FM radio and proclaimed, "You out of here?" amid the static. I'm thinking something is seriously wrong here, Austin told the Daily Mail. Now, the investigations in the home began after Ammons said that all three of her children showed signs of being possessed, including evil smiles and strangely deep voices. Now, the details were first reported in the Indianapolis Star, which I covered already. The mother also said to witnessed her 12-year-old daughter levitating. They're recapping some of this other stuff. So this was a follow-up story that appeared today. I have links to this particular story at the Tap Into the Truth Facebook page. And these links go back to theblaze.com, but I also, from there, you can get a link to the indystar.com that there's video footage on both of the original links, and there's photos in the Portal to Hell portion on the follow-up. So, what do you guys think? That's the ultimate question. If we're going to do some tapping into the truth, let's tap into the truth of this demonic possession. Is this real? Is this part of a get-rich-quick scheme? Certainly seem to be a lot of people in on it, and maybe they're all hoping to get their own individual book deals or to be hired as consultants. But regardless of what the reason is, the thing that just keeps coming back to me is the family services caseworker. She put this in her report. She works in a job where she very easily could have lost her job by putting something like this in a report. Again, still could be part of an elaborate hoax. But it just seems like an awful lot of documentation. The people who ordinarily, even if they saw something out of the ordinary, would willfully look the other way. Straight out of Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, when the Klingon ship is landing in the park and crushes the garbage cans. The two garbage collectors that work for the city. Did you see that? Nope, and neither did you. And they were gone. That's the type of mentality that you would expect these pencil pushers to have. But she went on the record. This is an official report. So that's the part that strikes me. This is the part that makes me wonder if maybe there isn't something a little more to this story than just somebody trying to pull a con. I'm going to keep an eye on this one, and I will continue to keep you up to date. Let me know if you're interested in this story. Feel free to go to tapintothetruth.com and go to the bottom of the homepage and send me a message. Let me know what you think about it too. Meanwhile, I promised I would keep it short, and we're going to cut it off. It is almost 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Time for the State of the Union address. So if you're going to watch it, let me know what you think about that too. We'll probably be talking about it pretty soon. I think I'm going to go watch a movie that I rented from the Redbox. You guys have a great night. Thanks for staying with us tonight, and remember, don't take my word for it. Definitely don't take their word for it. Take a little time, do your own research, use your brain, and always be prepared to put in at least a little bit of effort if you really want to tap into the truth. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back again soon. Good night.
had me love drunk. So this is goodbye. I hope all the stars they shine wherever you will go after tonight. So this is our one life. Try my best to make it right. I promise you that I will always wanna fight. Oh.